What's up, y'all? Hope y'all doing good. Whether you're watching this on TikTok, on Facebook, possibly Threads, on Instagram, or on my AKT Publishing channel on YouTube, don't forget to subscribe if you haven't. Welcome to my social media book tour for my book, Trust the Process, a mock memoir. We're gonna dive right in. To dive right into this book, tell you a little bit about this book. This came together in December of 2018. At the time, I was a preschool teacher. I was sitting in the break room, and a lot was going on with me at that time, and I had a lot on my head, a lot in my mind. And the big thing that was on my mind at that time was my father. He was weeks weeks away from passing away, which he did. He passed away January 8th, which was a Tuesday of 2019. And not only do I remember it being a Tuesday on my dad's death, but you might think it's ridiculous, but I am a lifer when it comes to pro wrestling, mostly WWE, something I've been watching since I was a kid in 1987. Another story for another time. But at the time in 2018, SmackDown was on USA Network and it was live on Tuesday nights. And my father died on the same day that SmackDown was going to air, which was a good thing for me at that time because I was able to, because when my father died, January 8th of 2018, when my father passed away, understandably, I was a mess. And being able to have something to distract me for 2 hours, which was WWE, which was SmackDown, was good for me to distract myself with for a couple hours and just to forget and just to get lost in what was going on at that time in SmackDown. It was also during that time when Daniel Bryant was still part of WWE, and he was on SmackDown at that time, and he had something going on at that time in 2018. But anyway, I mean in 2019, pardon me. But anyway, back to it. It was December of 2018. And I had something in my head that I wanted to write opposite of my father, knowing my father is dying and knowing it's coming anytime at that time. And I took my phone out and opened up the notes app, and I just started to write. And when what I started to write, I was writing I was writing in the mind of a different character that was sitting in an interrogation room, just airing out everything that he was feeling at that time. And he started airing out everything, started looking back at his life and trying to put the pieces together on how he ended up sitting in an interrogation room, possibly going to jail for a third and final time. And he started kind of just looking back at his life to moments in his life when everything started to turn from him, when he went from seeing a world in color to a world in black and white. And two moments for him that did that, and I'll get to that in a second. But after I wrote all that down, I put it away and I didn't think anything of it for a while. And then we skip ahead a couple of years, and it's 2021, and I revisit this thing that I had on my phone still in my notes app, and I look at it, and an idea surrounding the story comes to mind, and out comes this story of this character named Michael, who tells this story of his life, from the ups to the downs to all the in between stuff. And it was right after I had finished writing, I had sort of started writing this book that eventually became this story about my life called My Life in a Nutshell, which is available now on barnesandnoble.com and on Amazon. But I wasn't really, I was writing, sort of starting to write that of my life. And that was just at the time, that story, which was about my life in a nutshell, it was really just a way for me to write about my father's death and write about my time so far as a preschool teacher at that time. And then that became what it eventually became. But trying to do that, trust the process, a mock memoir, was a way for me to really just practice. Feeling was a way to practice and for me to feel comfortable writing a story about my actual life instead of and by writing a story about the character writing a story about his life. It was good practice for me at that time. And then at the time, I originally called it like, whoa, an untrue story. And I put it on my WordPress page. And because I was proud of that story and I liked how that story came out at that time. And then I didn't think anything of it. And then after I left, and then in August of 2024, after I left from being a preschool teacher and started revisiting the stories that I wrote that were all on my WordPress page. And once I eventually put all those stories, turn all those stories into books, independently putting them out, I eventually came back to like, whoa, an untrue story, and looked at it again with really fresh eyes, because I hadn't seen it in a couple of years, and really was excited to dive into this story and change some things, add some things, and I did more adding than changing, and eventually changing the name of like, whoa, the untrue story, because I didn't feel like I could keep that name, because the name like, whoa, for the story at the time, was inspired by the artist Logic, who has a song called like, whoa, that is from his album The Incredible True Story, which is really a great album. It was his second studio album, coming off of Under Pressure into that was incredible. I enjoyed that album very much. I'm a fan of Logic. I enjoy all his stuff. For the most part, I enjoy all his stuff. You can be a fan of an art. The great thing about it is you can be a fan of an artist and you can love a lot of the stuff they do, but you don't have to love everything they do. There might be things that they put out that you might not be feeling, that might not be for you in that particular moment. So anyway, but I eventually changed the name to Trust the Process, a mock memoir, because I felt like Trust the Process has so many different meanings. It's something that eventually an author tells Michael in the story, when Michael begins talking about how he got into eventually writing a book about his life. And Trust the Process is also something that a lot of us try to use in life when we wake up every day. Trust the process within life, or whatever it is that you do, or love to do, or trying to do. Trust the process, and be patient, and allow yourself to cook, and trust yourself, and believe in yourself, and bet on yourself, that doing what you love will show to those people that you want to share it with how authentic you are, by not listening to those who say you can't, or if you're going to do that, you should do it this way. Always do it your way, and always be unapologetically yourself, and always authentic to who you are. So Trust the Process just has so many meanings in that. Especially in the story that you will all read, hopefully, about Michael and him telling this story about his life. So, what I am going to do now is read a little something from Trust the Process, a mock memoir. And the part that I'm going to read to you is after Michael witnesses his best friend get killed in a drive-by shooting, in the same way that his father was killed in a drive-by shooting. And the part that I am going to read will be at the funeral, and how and him being at the funeral and standing in front of everybody before he says what he what he will say to everybody about his best friend, Sean. So that's where I'm going to take you to. Here we go. No parent should have to bury their child, but sadly, it happens way too often. When the crew talked about Sean, Arnold and Ray talked about the kind of friend he was to them. Audrey talked about the kind of person she saw in Sean. Sarah talked about the love she and Sean had for each other since the end of middle school. It was hard to listen to those stories. It was still hard to accept that Sean was actually gone. Then I was asked if I wanted to say a few words about Sean. I didn't think I could. I didn't think I could make that walk toward the podium and talk about someone I cared about in the past tense. I remembered as a kid watching my mom making that walk toward the podium to talk about someone she cared about, someone she loved, my dad. I imagine she felt the same way I did walking toward the podium, scared, unsure, angry, sad, not knowing what will be the right thing to say. I get up to the podium and I look at everyone looking at me, and I spoke what was on my mind and in my heart. Devastation is a word that's been running through my mind over the last 2 weeks. We all lost Sean, and that's devastating. The way I watched as we all lost Sean is devastating. Holding Sean in my arms as he took his last breaths is devastating. Over the last few weeks, I've been trying to put together all these emotions I've been feeling. I feel angry, I feel sad, I feel scared, I feel unsure. The best way to describe all of what I'm feeling is devastated. I'm devastated that I lost my best friend, that I lost someone that was a brother to me. Sean was a good man and a good friend. Since Sean and I were kids, he's always been a just-in-case type of person. Always bringing a jacket or hoodie just in case. Always bringing a water bottle or a snack just in case. Out of all of us in the crew, Ray, Arnold, and Audrey, Sean was the one that was sure of himself, that was sure in what he wanted, and that was Sarah, and the baby she's carrying. Sean was looking forward to being a father, but he was also looking forward to being a husband. There was so much love that Sean shared with all of us, and there is so much love that we will continue to show to Sean. Even though he is gone, Sean will never be forgotten, and I will carry my brother, with me until I see him again on the other side. I walked away from the podium. I walked over to Sean's casket, and I put the jacket on the casket just in case. And then I sat back down in my seat. After all the words were said, we watched as he was lowered into the ground and watched as the dirt covered him. Myself with Audrey, the crew, and Sarah drank in his honor. Sarah drank water as she toasted with us. Then we went over to our favorite restaurant and ordered only what Sean liked to eat in his honor. Over the next month, Sarah gave birth to a beautiful, healthy child. It was a boy, and she named him Sean. We all came to the hospital and waited in the waiting room as she gave birth. When we were able to, we went into her room and saw she gave birth to a beautiful baby boy named after his father, Sean. 3 weeks later, the police finished their investigation into Sean's death and ruled it what I knew it was a murder. The person that shot Sean was part of a gang, and Sean looked like someone they were trying to kill. After they realized that Sean was the wrong person they killed, they found the person they wanted to kill and killed him. The cops found the guy that pulled the trigger on Sean coming out of a 7-Eleven. The cops chased after him, but gunshots were exchanged, and the guy that pulled the trigger on Sean was shot and killed by the police. Once I learned who killed Sean and why Sean was killed, I thought I would feel better, but I didn't. The feeling of learning how to live without a friend, the feeling of learning how to live without my friend around me was something I had to get used to. I'm going to start there because honestly, I could keep going. And I want to, and honestly, I shouldn't. But that's where I'm going to stop. But that is a little bit from Trust the Process, a mock memoir. It's available now on barnesandnoble.com and on Amazon. Link is in my bio. If you don't see a Linktree link in my bio, depending on what site you're watching this on, I will leave a link for you in my descriptions. Before I go, before this is done, I am currently working on something new. Some of my closest friends that know me very well know how much I love to write. Even those who aren't that close to me know how much I love to write. To take a line from the musical Hamilton, I'm always writing like I'm running out of time. And right now, I'm currently working on this new story called Fighting for My Life. And it's a story about Vincent, who learns that he has cancer. And after that book comes out later on this summer, I will do another one of these social media book tours to explain how I came up with this idea and how this story is really about facing a fear that I've always had in the back of my mind. But before I go, I wanted to read just a little bit from what I have of this rough draft of Fighting for My Life. So here I go. As Dr. Jefferson began to explain the treatment plan to Vincent, Vincent began to feel his body go completely numb as he felt he was leaving his body, as everything went silent, and all he could hear was a ringing sound. Vincent was caught in the moment of hearing that he has cancer. When the doctor was saying what the doctor was saying was muted to him, and all he could think of was his cancer. It was an outer body experience he was going through. Then Dr. Jefferson said Vincent's name a few times, but Vincent was still out of his body. Sally then said Vincent's name, and Vincent snapped out of his trance and was back in Dr. Jefferson's office. Vincent asked Dr. Jefferson to repeat what he said. Dr. Jefferson understood what Vincent was feeling after hearing the word cancer and repeated every step of how Vincent could fight his cancer. What we can do is chemotherapy and try to shrink the tumors, and if necessary, we'll do surgery to remove the tumors. I know this is a lot to take in, and in the end, it's up to you what you want to do. Take a few days, let it settle in, and think about what you want to do, and then let me know, Dr. Jefferson said. Vincent was listening, but he was also thinking about the people he needed to tell, the tears that will fall, the hugs that will be given. Vincent was happy that Sally was with him. Vincent knew he had a fight of his life coming, and he was going to fight with everything in him. You're right. It's a lot to think about, but this is cancer. I will take the time I need to feel what I need to feel about me having cancer, but I don't want to make my life any shorter than life already is. Let's make the appointments I need to start fighting this cancer now. That sounds good, Vincent. I will set up your first chemo appointment and email you later and let you know everything you need to know, Dr. Jefferson said. That's just a little something from Fighting for My Life. Rough draft of it, still in the midst of working on it, but that's just I wanted to share a little something that's coming down the line eventually. Anyway, I am Anthony K. Thomas, and this has been my social media book tour for my book, Trust the Process, a mock memoir. Available now on barnesandnoble.com and on Amazon. Like I said before, if you do not see a Linktree link in my bio, depending on the site that you are watching this on, I will leave a link for you in my descriptions. But y'all take care of yourselves, and I will see you on the next one. Peace, y'all.